Welcome to today's Tech Talk on working backwards from an accelerated data center migration. My name is Barb Malik, and I am a solution architect for AWS, specializing in AWS managed services. Additionally, over the years, I've been involved in several data center exits, both as an AWS resource assisting customers and while working in an enterprise IT space. So what does working backwards mean? In this case, it starts with that seemingly simple conversation or innocent question we receive one day at work. Hey, do you think we could be out of our data center by this year? If this resonates with you, you're not alone. Gartner research has stated that by 2025, 80% of enterprises will plan to shut down their traditional data centers. So we aren't alone in this. And while plans are good, consider the following scenarios, which may require you to expedite or accelerate a closure: a merger, acquisition, or a divestiture. We continue to hear from our customers that they desire to be more responsive and agile in the face of these type of changing business needs. Utilizing working backwards approach, the intent of this talk is to share some of the common migration challenges we have seen when under an accelerated timeline, as well as some of the solutions to aid in achieving your accelerated business goal, a data center exit. To begin, there is generally a compelling event which starts this wheel in motion. These are often rooted in business drivers and can generally be categorized into one of these 5 following areas. Mergers and acquisitions. The business climate is changing quickly. New businesses are popping up and others are teaming up. In this case, we have seen that organizations have a hard date to meet due to merger and acquisition activity. When this is the driver, there is a need to accelerate your data center migration. Often, when you are expanding through mergers and acquisitions, you may be looking at a proven operational option to support the business requirement, rather than expending time and money now in an attempt to integrate into your existing support structure. Enterprise customers have expressed the need for a proven foundation that is readily available, operationally secure, and in some cases coming packaged with compliance attestations. They want the operational data center to go option. Another option is with divestitures. If your organization is going through a divestiture, you will have similar needs to accelerate an exit, but you could have the added complication that you need to set up your own separate IT infrastructure and operations. You may need to develop and establish an entirely new team and mode of operation, or expand the existing team's skill set while they're still trying to maintain current state systems. I recently worked with a customer who is part of a large global divestiture and had 12 months to exit their data center or experience significant penalties. The 12 months didn't seem too bad at first until we spoke further, and I learned that the team only consisted of 4 people that would be going with the new company. Only 4 people. But this happens, and in large part, this is one of the reasons AWS has an organization focused on customer enablement. Another common scenario is when your organization has aging hardware or end-of-life software which require a new capital investment or updated software licensing terms. This puts you in the position of being at a crossroad of how quick can I migrate so I can avoid the cost of a refresh while still maintaining or improving the security posture of my organizational estate. While the first 3 scenarios are pretty familiar to most people, we're also seeing 2 other event patterns emerge. The first, workload modernization and transformation. As your organization continues their investment into cloud infrastructures and applications, your own data center footprint will continue to shrink. This gradual movement from on-premises data center to the cloud over time often raises questions about the continued need for a physical data center. This primarily is due to the fact that as workloads are moved, the economics of running on-premises data centers become less cost-effective and reaches a tipping point where you're looking to justify a full data center migration at an accelerated pace. The last category, data center contract renewal or expiration, has similar characteristics to modernization and transformation in that your footprint is shrinking. This is rooted in the fact that many data center investments are commonly amortized between a 10-year and 15-year period. And with the rapid advances in technology over this time frame, there is a high probability that many workloads will be moved into the cloud environment, thus rendering future investments in the infrastructure pointless. While the compelling events are fairly straightforward, and we all probably have examples and have been part of more than one of these type of efforts, the execution of a data center exit can bring upon challenges to those who are tasked with executing the plan. Through our AWS Customer Enablement organization, which encompasses training and certification, AWS professional services, AWS support, and AWS managed services, we have helped thousands of customers augment their team skills with deep expertise where, when, and how they need assistance with their migrations to AWS. With this as the backdrop, we have reviewed our collective experiences, and the following themes have emerged as to why accelerated migrations can be challenging. The lack of cloud skills and experience is a particularly difficult issue for enterprises to overcome. According to a PricewaterhouseCoopers survey, 63% of executives say the lack of skilled teams is the biggest obstacle to digital innovation. IT teams struggle to learn new skills while managing their current responsibilities, and many IT organizations are unable to recruit new cloud talent. I kind of harken back to the example I provided in the earlier slide relative to the company going through a divestiture and was left with only 4 team members, and only one of those was cloud aware. So while the clock was ticking for them on this data center exit, they were also trying to find, onboard, and ramp new resources to their business. Another area to consider is organizational transformation. A recent Gartner study stated that 88% of enterprise IT organizations have a cloud-first strategy, yet 86% of enterprise infrastructure spend is still directed to technology on premises. This disconnect exists because while large organizations want to take advantage of cloud benefits, many have not undergone the necessary transformation within their organization to be successful. The existing culture, process, and tools block you from going all in with AWS, even when you understand that this is the right move for your business. We recently encountered this with one of our customers when we were reviewing security policies. The last time they were updated was over 10 years ago. Therefore, many of the policies were not cloud aware. This resulted in teams blanketly stating, no, we can't do that, it's against our policy. So that blocked many of the aspects of the migration. Yet a simple conversation with the CISO and the policy was updated. It was a win-win. The customer removed the blocker and updated their policies. Cloud adoption can help increase agility and productivity while reducing costs, but the impact of cloud adoption will be felt across your entire organization. Therefore, the journey to the cloud will have an impact on your organization's culture. Another area is looking at operations. It's deferring those operations discussions until too late. We often hear our customers say, we want to be like Amazon. How do you guys do this? If you look at the bottom of every one of Amazon's press releases, we cite 4 pillars. One is commitment to operational excellence. We focus on operations early and often. Operational excellence is ingrained in our culture. It is also key to being able to ensure an accelerated data center exit. Enterprises have expressed the desire to migrate quickly and stay security neutral, or ideally better. How often? Oftentimes, security or operations resources are engaged as part of a go-live checklist, which may come very late in the process. This causes rework, cost overruns, and frictions between your teams. Since all of my examples so far have illustrated customer challenges, I'm going to switch it up a bit here and share how one customer, Sally Mae, averted this challenge. Sally Mae deliberately shifted left with their operational conversations. While they had an accelerated migration timeline, less than 7 months to exit 2 data centers, they designed the migration working backwards from their operational needs, specifically disaster recovery. They included operations up front and conducted game days, or a fun way to simulate an event, early into the process. This allowed them to find at the conclusion of their accelerated migration that they were in an improved operational state with the capability to recover from an exponentially faster time. Even today, they continue to exercise operational scenarios. So if and when they occur, they have the memory muscle to respond in an accelerated manner. The last theme, new operating models. As you move into the cloud, you will find that you have different operating models to consider, new tools and processes, as well as thinking through a different set of questions. Can I run this right now? Do I want to run this right now? Am I capable of running this right now? While optionality is great, an increase in the number of decisions and changes can be a challenge. Although customers are deciding to move out of their data centers, it is a significant business decision with many important considerations, encompassing practical and regulatory challenges in addition to enterprise risk. You must take into account these considerations to mitigate the risk, maximize the cost reduction opportunities, and ensure a successful business outcome. This is why we are having these type of conversations today, to bring transparency to these challenges, to discuss mitigation options, and to help you understand that AWS is here to help. AWS has the expertise, services, and resources to support your data center exit plans. So while our customers, their business objectives, and technologies may be unique, migrations themselves are not. And as such, here are some of the common blockers that we see during migrations. The first is failure to involve the right people at the right time. Based upon the experiences from our AWS professional services teams, upwards of 40% of the time projects are stalled is due to this. This could be as simple as starting with having a cross-functional steering committee that understands the context and business driver for the migration. Working backwards from the desired outcome, they have the context for when the pay now, pay later decisions need to be made. For example, should we upgrade an OS now or take the risk and move it as is? Is it okay to modify an image, or would this affect our compliance stance? So another example is when migrating from an on-prem data center to the cloud, a new agent may need to be installed on an image to help with monitoring or managing the instance. If this context is not understood, this can become a blocker and an expense to the migration, while teams conduct meetings, identify correct resources, and work through exception processes. One of the key takeaways is make sure you're transparent and inclusive early with security, operations, and compliance resources. Empower the people that have the knowledge of the application and operations. Another aspect relative to the right people at the right time. Oftentimes we see an enterprise that has a specific cloud team that they're very well versed in net new or native cloud applications. And then they have a different team that manages the on-premise state. But when you're initializing a migration project, blend these resources. The cloud team brings cloud knowledge, and the existing application or operating team brings meaningful context for the application. Blending them to focus on the migration allows both teams to learn by doing. While working with Thomson Reuters on their data center exits, we saw this play out. They started as separate teams, but quickly realized that this blending of the teams accelerated the team's ability to move application workloads. They truly embraced the power of 1 + 1 is 3. And actually, if you have time, I would highly recommend watching the reInvent session where Thomson Reuters shares this journey, and they specifically mention this point. Another takeaway here is, if possible, leverage team rooms for migrations. Have a platform party or a migration party. And it's been really interesting to watch the dynamics of organizations that are migrating and conducting these parties amidst the pandemic right now. At first, we saw that organizations were hesitant or skeptical with all workers being remote. But what we've actually seen are some interesting trends here. Some positive, some still need a little work. But the good things are the parties seem much more focused. Previously, when you had a majority of people in a room and just some on a bridge, you'd oftentimes have side conversations or decisions that were made outside of the room where the remote team couldn't participate. But now, with everybody being remote, the playing field has been leveled and everybody has the opportunity to participate equally. The downside, or the part that I miss the most, is the brainstorming via whiteboards. So that one might take a little bit, but surprisingly, we see organizations are really embracing the virtual migration party. Another area to consider is around the discovery. Assuming a discovery phase is a one-time event or just a phase that occurs in a linear fashion. Discovery is important. Learning what is in the data center, how and who operates applications, expectations relative to tooling. The list can go on and on for what needs to be discovered. However, it is not a one and done type event. It's more like an onion. There are many layers, but this is also a great opportunity for iterating and learning. But the key here is getting into that mindset that it's not a one-time event. You will discover things later in the project. So plan for the unknowns via learning sprints, be it a sprint 0, a spike, or a dedicated learning sprint. An example that we've run into here is when we've migrated applications from one operating model on-prem to the cloud. There may be agentry or configurations on the images that you might not be aware of. So conduct that planning sprint and learn by doing, and then codify those learnings via automation into repeatable pieces so that they go more quickly in subsequent sprints. We experienced this recently on one project where part of the prior infrastructure operator's hardening process was to remove a specific DLL so an image could not be accidentally sysprep. This was one DLL out of hundreds. The customer was not aware of this, but we uncovered it during a learning sprint or a sampling sprint. So what this allowed us to do was to systematically check for this in future sprints and remediate it. It helped the other sprints go much more quickly versus re-identifying it with each sprint. Another example is leveraging operational game days. This is a great way to exercise learning, but also quickly identify gaps in tooling or processes. When this isn't done, it can block a go live or a production cutover as a plan or process has not been updated for the new operating model. We often see this occur relative to incident management. Who do I contact if it's 3 a.m. and my application is failing? Or I need to create a new access policy. How do I retain least privilege while not slowing down progress? These are processes or technologies that can be identified early on in the project and then validated, codified, and exercised throughout the migration. So it's been mentioned a few times, but learning by doing is powerful. So oftentimes we see where one team will move an application and then the next team may not benefit from the learnings. There's two impacts for this. One, it results in redundant work, and worse, a maintenance problem down the road as patterns and automations become difficult. Secondly, it causes each application to have to start at square one and learn versus leveraging and iterating on a proven successful pattern. So take the time to document the learnings. And in this context, when I say document, this can be done through code. So things like CFN templates or service catalog products. Look for areas where you can automate, then improve it with each wave, cohort, or phase of application migrating. This will allow your speed or velocity to increase as you migrate. Oftentimes we see where there's lengthy documents that get produced that outline patterns. However, many times documents can become stale or are not widely known across disparate teams. So take the time to codify patterns and share them in a systematic way. The next one is kind of interesting to me. It's around lack of a defined escalation path or executive sponsorship. And it's interesting because probably I have spent time previously working in organizations where escalation is often viewed as a negative thing. It's a telling on type scenario or a tattling. Because of this mindset, oftentimes there isn't an escalation path, or if it is there, there's more of a culture of fear to exercise the escalation process. This can become a huge time blocker for a migration as teams potentially try many options or suffer in silence when a quick escalation can bring a decision and the program timeline can stay intact. Remember the example I gave previously about the security policy? This is a great example of this. No one on the team wanted to escalate the need to change or review a policy. The team bantered this about for weeks. They had meetings and they researched alternatives and they were spiking different solutions. When the team eventually had the conversation with the CISO, it took less than a day to get approval. So shifting gears a little bit, previously I've been talking a lot about people and process-oriented blockers. Now I'm going to shift a little bit and talk about technology-related blockers. So lack of a defined decision matrix. This falls into the category of a framework that you can use to aid in determining what needs to be done. Not all of your applications are created equal. Oftentimes, as part of the analysis, the decision of whether to refactor or rehost comes into question. When a decision matrix is lacking, teams have a tendency to hit both ends of the change spectrum. They either are on one extreme where they change nothing and incur technical debt by not taking advantage of some of the minimal viable refactoring that can occur to leave an application in a more secure state. So examples are updating the OS or the database to a supported version. Or they go to the complete other end of the spectrum and they want to refactor everything and end up consuming far more time than your accelerated data center timeline can allow. The AWS Professional Services Migration Team has a series of decision trees that can be used throughout a project to accelerate this type of decision velocity. The last one is focusing on bridge building versus the destination. I'll touch on this one briefly in the next slide with an analogy, and then we'll dive a bit into what is foundational and what can eat away at the time when you focus on the bridge versus the destination. So I've talked a bit about the high-level business drivers and themes. The following is an analogy to think about as we do a deeper dive on migration blockers and solutions. I happen to be a visual person, so when one of my colleagues shared this with me, I thought, hey, this might fit well for the tech talk I'm doing. So thanks to all of you for indulging me and allowing me to share this visual with you. In this analogy, the bridge is the setup of the cloud foundation, the security alignment, the operations. Once that is in place, you're able to more easily modernize your application, deliver data services, move faster, become more agile. But often the benefits of the cloud, or those items that are on the right-hand side, get commandeered by people that want to build and maintain the bridge. We've seen where several customers have taken more than 18 months and spent millions of dollars on building a bridge, also known as an operationalized landing zone. And they do it in such a way that they then have jobs in managing and operating the bridge, which for many infrastructure people, this is closest to what you've been doing for decades in your on-prem world. Minimal change for people, but as an organization, this is also an opportunity to capitalize on that change. The thing is that so much effort goes into this bridge that there are not many resources left to help the business with the real journey that happens once you're over the bridge. In effect, you build the bridge, but there's no roads beyond the bridge. So the benefit of the applications being in the cloud, like lower cost, high availability, scalability, aren't realized in a timely manner. It's like you get stuck in this land just over the bridge that's better than your on-prem land, but not nearly as good as the land to the right where you could extend your applications through modernization or learn from your applications via machine learning. AWS offers a service, AWS Managed Services, or AMS, that you can view as a pre-built bridge. It can be deployed and operationally ready for production workloads in a matter of weeks. It also offers various options for the management of the bridge or landing zone. In effect, it allows your employees to focus on building the roads beyond the bridge, because this is the value that the enterprises are telling us that they want. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the concept of the foundation and what does it mean to be operationally ready. To do this, I'm going to give you a little background on what AMS is and how it came about. Talking to our customers and working backwards from what we hear and see during migrations, we built AWS Managed Services, or AMS for short. So let's take a look at what AMS is at a high level by focusing on these 6 key areas. AMS comes out of the box with a prescriptive guided architecture with a defined business outcome of compliant, secure, and scalable. Again, out of the box, the architecture comes with PCI DSS in place, 4 flavors of ISO, and we're HIPAA eligible. We do a lot of the foundational heavy lifting and then layer on a robust operational framework on top of that, so you have a secure and scalable starting point and can begin to bring those workloads on board. In short, that pre-built bridge. In true AWS fashion, we are fueled by automation. Everything we've done with the service to date has been focused on moving the important but undifferentiated tasks away from human hands to automation. This way, cloud experts can focus on the higher level tasks that matter to the business. This is all done by leveraging standard AWS tooling. And speaking of cloud experts, we give you access to the same cloud experts that we use to build our service directly and indirectly when you're using the AMS service. This allows you to reach into the AMS organization and use AMS as an example of what good looks like. Again, the learn by doing and augmenting with and engaging the right people at the right time. We also offer ongoing cost optimization. We continuously and consistently work with you to identify ways to optimize the environment and operating model to ensure your investments are fine-tuned to what your business actually needs to consume. So think about things like right-sizing EC2 instances so that the deployed infrastructure matches what the workload needs to run efficiently. It could also be leveraging auto-scaling or moving SQL off box and leveraging RDS. It could also include strategies for leveraging reserved instances as a way to drive out costs. In essence, we are there to work with you to iterate and help you make informed decisions on rehost versus refactor relative to your decision matrix. No vendor lock-in refers to the fact that, with the exception of endpoint protection, we've built our platform leveraging readily available AWS tools. So think of tools like CloudWatch, CloudTrail, Trusted Advisor, all the tools that are available in non-AMS managed AWS environments. This allows you and your team to see how to apply these tools to support your operational needs. Again, it's that transparency. And then finally, contractually, AMS is a consumption-based service. It mirrors what AWS has done with the utility compute model. We want you to have the same flexibility within your managed environments as you do with the AWS utility compute model. We want you to be able to scale up and down depending on the usage patterns that are inherent within your business and align to your business's migration, modernization, and transformation strategy. We also want you to use our service for as long as you want to use it and not be held to some arbitrary contract terms. This allows you to use us to support and accelerate migrations or to manage legacy environments that may not be modernized. Again, it's at your discretion. You can use AMS where it makes sense for your business. With this foundation or bridge in place, your resources can then put the focus, time, and energy into application migrations or accelerating applications to the destination and ultimately the desired business outcomes. So in short, and leveraging kind of ITIL terminology, here are the infrastructure operation domains that you need to consider in your accelerated data center exit. So whether you're leveraging AMS or you're building these yourself, these are the domains that you need to think about. So I'm going to walk through a little bit of how AMS does these and how they are included in our offering to aid in the acceleration of a data center exit and provide the foundational bridge for all of your workloads. Provisioning and onboarding of stacks into the environment. you have to actually have a process for bringing the provisioning and the onboarding of stacks into your new environment. Are you going to allow everybody to do this, or are you going to combine it to a certain group of resources? Additionally, we have curated and addressed 100 plus security and operational guardrails and compliance checks that continue to grow as new threats or needs are identified. This one is really important to think about during your migration. While many people don't think about this until a cutover or go live, we have seen that it is important to have this in place during the migration. While well-intended people are moving quickly with your accelerated migration plan, people do sometimes make mistakes. So things such as inadvertently deploying to the wrong VPC or having overly permissive security groups or IAM policy. So it's important to have some guardrails in place during the migration so these don't become bigger issues or erode your business's confidence in moving to the cloud. We also make sure that all of the tooling associated with operations in the cloud is launched and deployed against the environment when the infrastructure is provisioned. This provides the confidence that all infrastructure is operationally ready, not just those that were provisioned during the migration. And what this means is, on average, we are seeing that our customers are obtaining a 25% cost savings due to the insights and optimizations that our team of service delivery managers share with you. We also provide 88% of self-service automation. This helps you additionally be able to scale as you can spread out that workload more. We also handle critical things like OS level patching, backups, and continuity in terms of snapshots and delivering 100% compliance for these type of services. In essence, we help you shift your operational solutions left in your accelerated data center exit. So now to the crux of this. How do we get to the destination faster? Working backwards from what we heard from our customers to help accelerate their data center exits relative to the foundation and operational aspects, let's take a look at some of the key takeaways or actionable items that we can collectively do to accelerate your data center exit. First, focus on the destination, not the bridge. As we discussed, you can use a pre-built bridge or AMS with varying levels of management offered. You choose how much time you want to spend building and managing landing zones versus migrating and modernizing your applications. Get the right people involved. Blend teams together. Internally, whether this is your cloud team and the database team or the security team and the ops team. Also, augment the collective team with partners or AWS professional services. Work together and learn by doing. Next thing is parties. I mean, who doesn't like a party? The benefit of all the people that are involved in the migration of an app in one room, be it virtual or on-site, will greatly improve the outcome and speed of your data center exit. Again, learning by doing and having the right people at the right time. Next, it's establishing a cross-functional steering committee with executive sponsorship. This team is key to ensure the business context is at the forefront during the data center exit, but also ensuring that the effort is the start and you're well positioned to iterate and innovate going forward. The next area is around transparency. So learning sprints, sprint zeros, actively set those expectations and be upfront that you are testing your hypotheses and you fully expect that you will learn new items. You're doing this so you can validate your plan as you go and be able to pivot quickly if needed. Another area is around pattern transparency. Take the time to codify patterns and share in a systematic way. This will save you time during the exit, as well as position you for decreased maintenance costs as more standardization and potentially self-service provisioning is available. An option here is to leverage AWS Service Catalog. And no AWS Tech Talk would be complete without mentioning automation. Leverage tooling for migrations. The AWS Cloud Endure Migration Factory solution provides a mechanism to systematically and rapidly replicate instances to the cloud in a repeatable, codified, transparent manner for application wave migrations. This allows you to iterate on your automations and incorporate learnings in a systematic, repeatable way, allowing for the velocity of the applications migrated to exponentially improve as the project progresses. So we've reviewed a number of suggestions for accelerating your data center exit, and hopefully you'll find some of them, if not all, resonate with you and your organization. Ultimately, we are looking to share the experiences we have gleaned and to help you achieve these key value drivers. We want you to accelerate migration. Many migrations projects fall behind schedule before they begin because it can take months to build the proper foundation needed in AWS to support production workloads. And once migrations are underway, migration engineers can then get bogged down by operational tasks such as analyzing alerts and responding to incidents. AMS is a way to eliminate these blockers by providing a production-ready landing zone in days and taking full operational responsibility for the environment during that migration. We also want you to be able to reduce your operating costs. Up to 80% of infrastructure costs can be attributed to operations, not the cost of the infrastructure itself. With AMS, AWS lowers the cost of operations for some customers by more than 25%. We want to allow you to focus on innovation, but more specifically, insourcing innovation. By offloading the commodity tasks of day-to-day infrastructure operations to AMS, your teams are able to spend more time investing in strategic pursuits, such as transforming culture, developing skills, delivering innovation, and serving your customers. And most importantly, we want to help you improve your security and compliance posture. Establishing security, identity, and compliance controls can be one of the most difficult, time-consuming aspects of an at-scale AWS adoption. AMS offers a codified, step-by-step process for extending your security perimeter to the cloud, including the critical task of Active Directory integration and compliance certification mapping. Completing these steps up front actually will save you time in the long run by eliminating some of the common post-migration blockers. As always, it takes a team of people working together to enable your goal of an accelerated data center exit. And AWS Customer Enablement is here to assist you with that journey. Whether it's overcoming a skills gap with training and certifications, and extra sets of hands and experience via AWS professional services and AWS support, or to take on the undifferentiated infrastructure operations with AWS managed services. We are here to help you attain your desired business outcomes. So thank you for joining us today. Please visit our website to learn more about AWS Managed Services and to download the Forrester Total Economic Impact Study for AWS Managed Services. But now let's open it up for some Q&A.